Kia ora koutou and welcome to Tupo Talks. We've got a great guest lineup tonight. Kei te mihi kia koutou. Sorka Ka joining us from Petone at work. Thanks for taking the time. And also Kristen and Julian from Tamaki Makaurau. What I'll do is, today we're talking about Rangatahi, a youth perspective on civic participation on local and central government, and you guys have a bit of a platform. You, in some way, you have a voice on behalf of youth, and many times you've spoken on behalf of youth. So, what we're going to do is, if you guys can introduce yourself, we'll start with you, Sorka.
Kia ora everyone, my name's Sorka Ka. I'm in Petone at the moment at work, but I'm based in Upper Hutt, Lower Hutt. I've quite the experience working with young people. Back in 2019, I was a lead group member of School Strike for Climate and a member of Extinction Rebellion, both youth-based climate change groups that are led by youth, but boosted by local government to get youth voices out there. Whilst COVID has kind of put a stop to all of the protesting, I still try to keep up with youth activism. Aside from activism, I'm also a scout leader in Upper Hutt, so I like to empower the voices of youth and kind of get them to grow in their own ways wherever possible. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Sorka. And of course, there was a video clip that went viral some time ago. I think, was it Russell Norman? You were addressing the Environmental Protection Authority and sort of had to tell them, you know, about basically tell the grown-ups in the room that they weren't doing a good enough job in terms of protecting our environment. And was that part of the protest a couple of years ago, or a few years ago actually?
Yeah, so the major kind of push for it is when Greta Thunberg over in Europe kind of stood up and said, like, you know, I'm a 16-year-old and I'm a bit fed up. I don't have the right to vote. It feels like I've got no influence, yet it's my future that I'm, you know, that's at stake. This is the planet I'm inheriting. It's not good enough. I feel like as a future leader of the world, I should have a say. And that kind of inspired all of us that New Zealand has this really kind of facade of being clean, green, Aotearoa, and we're so good on our mana whenua, and it's like the best of our priorities. And it really isn't. It isn't in the way that our government does legislation. It's not in our schools. It's not in our workplace. It's not even within our own whānaus and communities. And so we wanted to kind of take on the fake identity that was pushed ahead for the New Zealand to the world. And we wanted to challenge it and say, well, this is actually not what we're like, but it's what we could be. If you listen to the youth, you know, we've got some ideas. And so for each strike that went forth, different legislation was proposed to the government to tackle climate change, such as reducing emissions, slashing the prices for EVs, you know, making them more affordable, having public transport more affordable, more accessible to people, so it's more desirable to take the train than a car, especially when you're going somewhere like Wellington, all that kind of stuff.
Kia ora, thanks for that, Sorka. And of course, if you can just tell us your connection to Lower Hutt.
Yeah, so I grew up in Upper Hutt. I still live there, but I went to Sacred Heart College in Lower Hutt. And when you spend all of your kind of like teenage years there, you really get to know the community. So I began doing quite a bit of work with Hutt City Council, and that's where I based my focus, because I found between Upper Hutt and Hutt City Council were more willing to work with youth, and they were offering us a platform to use, and I was happy to take that.
Kia ora. And also Christian and Julian, and in just full disclosure, they are my cousins. Our mothers are sisters, just in case. And so we'll start with you, Christian. So where are you guys joining us from?
Oh, kia ora, Gabriel. We're joining from Tamaki Makaurau. Engari, he uri maua no Ngāti Haua, me Ngāti Tuwhare Toa ki Taupo, me Ngāti Raukawa, me Waitaha Ahei anō hoki. So all around the Waikato. Yeah, but obviously we grew up in Lower Hutt. Mum and Dad have lived in Nainai since 1991. and then, you know, Nani Ora and our grandmother since way before then. So mum and all our older siblings and many of the cousins went through Nainai College. But we grew up in Nainai, in Lower Hutt, and went to Hibs and Upper Hutt International Boys School, and then moved up to Tamaki. I moved up 2020. You moved up
2021
for study. Yeah.
Awesome. And you, of course, are the immediate past youth MP for Chris Hipkins. So did you just want to talk about your, just, you know, the MP for Mataka? So, you know, what are a couple of the highlights for you from that time as the youth MP?
I think it was a pretty cool opportunity as youth MP. Now there's another youth MP coming in, which is pretty cool. Mihi to Soka as well, who was running to be youth MP for Remutaka. We met in 2019, and there was a whole array of kaupapa that we had, not only for the hut, but for Māori history in schools, and the education sector. Oh yeah, there we are. Which was pretty cool, as Chris Hipkins is the Minister of Education. But I thought it was actually quite cool the way in which when I applied for Youth MP, I applied and you had to give a little essay on why you think rangatahi involvement is important. And I used the hut as an example. And I said, well, it's our future, right? We're going to be the ones who are going to be here the longest out of everyone. And I used the example of quite a unique example to the Hutt Valley, Porirua as well, I guess, but of state housing. And I said, state housing legislation passed in the 1930s, 1940s. And our mum and dad's house was built in 1940. All the houses throughout Nainai, Taira, and much of the Hutt Valley were built between the 40s and the 50s for a big part of the Hutt Valley. And even today, 80 years later, we are still living in those decisions. We are still living in those houses that were built in the infrastructure that was created in Lower Hutt. Hillary Court, for example, was like the diamond of the times or something. And so it's like those same decisions that we make today could be affecting our tamariki, our mokopuna in 80 odd years' time. Yeah. But those were some of my highlights of Youth Parliament, being able to talk to Chris about the education system, talk to others about hitori Māori and rangatahi Māori issues, but also, being uniquely from the Hutt. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Christian. And sitting next to you is, people didn't know, is actually Christian's twin brother, and it's Julian. Julian, what are you doing at the moment as well? Because, of course, most people out there will recognise you as the actor who was probably launched to... but your acting career really started when you were younger, and Paper Planes and other short films and so forth, but it really was launched by Taika Waititi's Hunt for the Wilder People, wasn't it?
So like Christian said, we grew up in Nainai. Mum and Dad lived there for quite a while. So
still live there.
Still live there. Yeah, still live there in the same house, which is great. About to say the address. No. It's been interesting. Definitely grew up walking through like Nainai Centre and that. We definitely grew up as we were, I guess, raised by the community. We definitely knew a lot of people, knew the houses, knew where our friends lived and da-da-da. But in terms of career-wise, it was funny. My first film, Shopping, the directors came in and did open cast auditions, which is basically they just come and they look for people that they want to cast. And basically how that happened is they just came to wander into Nainai Primary School, and me and Christian were sitting there. So I would actually, I guess it all started in the Hutt Valley for me in terms of my career, and it's always been home.
And I was just going to say that you have, in a way, do you think you've used your platform, sort of your sphere of influence, to advocate for issues that are important to youth, to rangatahi?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've used my platform to advocate. Oh, that's a cool photo. Advocate definitely towards our rangatahi. Recently, like what just finished, is I was an ambassador for the 40-hour famine, which is a really important school, which is obviously World Vision, about raising money for young people all over the world who need help, and then also communicate and work with people at the Revolution Tour as well. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically a non-for-profit charity that goes around schools in New Zealand and Aotearoa and advocates getting help on mental health and your well-being, your hauora, your te whare tapawha. So that Māori framework, we're using that as well in schools at the moment. And then also in 2019, I was also a youth ambassador for the 40-hour famine, and was lucky enough to go over to Uganda and really see firsthand what they're doing to help, and how Rangatahi in New Zealand are helping firsthand in places like that. So I definitely feel like I've used my platform. I definitely feel like I can use it more, but just making sure I'm doing it in the right way.
Awesome. And so here we have, we're talking about Christian. You mentioned you're the youth MP. So were you involved in like local government at any time, or was it the student body, voice government? How did you get involved in becoming the youth MP?
I think I'd always been quite interested by politics. I think I don't think I hadn't ever been involved in much like local government politics, like in our councils or our regional councils, but I I did debating at high school, and it was actually quite fun. But yeah, I was always involved. I think it's just because I really, like I said before, like it's not just something I say. Like I really grabbed hold of the idea of that we are the future of Aotearoa. I really like a Dame Whina Cooper quote from our kui, Whina Cooper, where she said, look after and watch the shape of how the children grow, for how they are shaped, so will be the shape of Aotearoa. Sorry, I probably butchered that. But that's what she said, and I think that's what made me really want to get into youth parliament and stuff along those lines, because it's important for our future. Yeah. So no, it wasn't heavily involved necessarily in any practical way, just in an interest. Yeah.
And also, Sorka, I mean, you were involved in a number of things over the past few years. Most of it to do with climate change. And I remember that photo of you with the bottle lids, of course, milk top lids, and recycling. And so, was it the climate change action that gave you the impetus to be a voice for youth?
Sorry, I'm just at work. I'm going to have to shoot off after this question just because it's super busy. Yeah, so with School Strike for Climate, you were dealing with local council. So for us, that was Hutt City Council, regional, so Greater Wellington Region Council. And we tried getting in with Upper Hutt Council, and then we were dealing with national government. So that included sit-downs with the mayor, with local MPs. I ended up getting onto the Irish Embassy Youth Council. So for those that don't know, my parents came here in 99. I was born in 01. So they came from Ireland and all that. So especially when Christian was talking about the state housing, we grew up in the traditional state housing in Upper Hutt as well, and they still had the same houses there. So that for me was like definitely got that one. So we got in with the Irish Embassy to New Zealand, which was established in 2020 and then was fully functional in 2021. And this weekend, actually, we're doing a summer school where we bring together a whole bunch of panelists to discuss on issues. And one of our largest issues that we want to talk about is the power of words and how that kind of ties in with the media and all that. So I'll be representing young people at the embassy on Saturday, and I think we're definitely going to be talking about climate change and local elections and how getting the youth voice, so that's your 18 to 25-year-olds, to vote. I haven't had the pleasure yet of getting together with Make It 16, although I have been following them on social media. And because I have to shoot off, I'm really, really sorry. It's just a bit crazy at work at the moment. I definitely support the Make It 16. I think that if you were old enough to do the things you can at 16 and they expect us to be able to leave school and get a job and pay our taxes, why should we pay taxes to a government that we can't even vote for? We can't even vote for or participate in. It just makes absolutely zero sense to me. But I would suggest anyone watching who is 16 and 17 to get involved, search them up online, search them up on Facebook. It's Make It 16. Get involved any way that you can. And if you're 18 to 25, make sure that you're using your voice and voting in the local election coming up soon. Have a good one, guys. Sorry, I have to go now.
Thank you, Sorka. Bye-bye. And, of course, it's the wonderful Sorka who took a few moments out of the week to join us. So Sorka mentioned something quite interesting. Should we lower the voting age to 16? That's the corridor, that's the discussion in the public arena at the moment. The youth MPs have been convening at Parliament. And Christian, you'll remember how that feels, walking into the halls of power and in the debating chamber. And of course, I think quite a number of them have signed a petition that they would like to, lower the voting age to 16 years. The Make It 16 campaign, I think, took this issue to the High Court back in 2020, and they lost the ability to. They were trying to advocate that that by excluding 16-year-olds from the democratic process, voting, it's a breach of their human rights, Bill of Rights. They recently have appealed to the Supreme Court, and I'm not sure whether that's passed. A little while ago, a petition was signed by more than 70 mayors and councillors to actually change the law. And recently, Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister, said that the government will review aspects of the electoral law, which includes lowering the voting age. So there's some people, there's a big history to it. Once upon a time, I think 21 years of age was the voting age. And then World War II, because you had different age people, people overseas in war, some of them were 16, 17, 18. So the government made an exception for them to be able to vote. And also you look at, there's a number of countries, I think Scotland, Brazil, Austria, that actually allow 16-year-olds to vote. So do you, either of you have a view on, do you think it's time that we do allow 16-year-olds to vote or give them that opportunity?
Yeah, I would say it's a very complex issue. But what I think about on a national government level or state government level, I think it's quite funny that we can expect 16-year-olds to be able to leave school, to be able to work full time, to be able to have children, to be able to drive, even to go to prison, not at 16, but, under 18, 17 to 18-year-olds. And they can't vote on that. That they can be working full time, paying tax, contributing to society, that a young person, and the argument is that young people aren't educated enough. But I would argue that not only do from what I know of the Make It 16 campaign is campaign for civics education as well, but are they not in the perfect place in schools to be learning? That's debatable, but kaya koe. Yeah, and I think there's the big example that we can that young people, well, we're a voting age now, but young people can't be trusted with voting. But I say you trust those same people to drive cars on the road. You trust those same people to staff many medium-sized businesses across the country as Rangatahi do. Shout out to Pack and Save Low Heart for this job. And even on I must say, Gabriel, even on a local level, the elections coming up, there's so many things that will affect us as young people, as Rangatahi, that we should be able to vote on. When it comes to resource management, when it comes to local, zoning for houses, I think about Nainai and how the Hutt City Council is transforming housing, especially the Nainai pool and many of those topics. And I think these aren't 2-year plans. These aren't 1-year plans. These are long-term 10, 15, 20, 30-year plans. And that's when, well, hopefully not 20 years, but that's when we'll be buying homes. That's when we'll be taking our kids to the pool. That's when we'll be driving on these roads. Well, driving now already, but you know what I mean? It's these things that affect us not only now, but in the future, both in state elections and in local elections. Yeah.
So just so Julian, so you guys are you're not 21 yet, are you?
Nah,
Not quite.
19,
Okay.
turning 20 this year.
Oh, okay. So is this your first local government election, local body?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, well, that'll be interesting because, of course, you got the local elections this year and then the national. Central
We can't vote for you, Gabriel, because we're up here in Tamaki.
Wiki.
Everyone else can, though. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. So, oh no, you've got, yeah, that's right, Auckland City Council up there. So, what do you guys think? I mean, so lowering the age to 16, it's sort of, is it a matter of time? It's just a matter of time that it'll be lowered. I mean, when you look at, you mentioned before, 16-year-olds are well informed. In this day and age, the age of information. So, because I did hear an argument the other day that, 16-year-olds don't have they just want to be teenagers and they'll probably vote the way their parents vote. But they do have a mind of their own, don't they? And they are becoming more involved in their communities, civic participation, even whether it's sports clubs, arts, cultural. They're aware of what's going on around them, the cost of living, all those sorts of issues that are close to home. So I just want to, pivot away from that now and just thank you both for joining us on the show. Of course, we had Soka with us, climate change activist. Christian, your work with the history in schools, New Zealand, Aotearoa New Zealand history in schools. Julian, is there anything that you want to mention in terms of, are you going to be here for a while yet, or are you heading back overseas?
Yeah, I'll be heading. So I'm working at the moment in Tamaki, and then after that I'll be heading overseas. But yeah, that's all I can say at the moment. But thank you for having me on for the little I contributed.
But we showed that photo before about you being involved. I think that was the Ihumato actually, protest in Wellington. So you'll continue to use your platform in a positive way to, uplift or support issues that are obviously affect our young people.
Yeah, of course. I think I have a look at especially having a brother who was so heavily involved in terms of local change and national change for our rangatahi. I guess I feel like just like a calling is for international change in terms of things like broader like mental health and kind of the level that I feel like that's where I'm called to at the moment to help, and I feel like there needs to be rangatahi everywhere helping everyone. So if I can do that, just like I love the heart, but also outside of the heart, then I'm willing to do that as well. Yeah.
And and that's a good place to sort of end there is, wherever the youth are, the rangatahi are, whether they're at the Nainai Clubhouse or a youth group up in Stokes Valley, or they're just the part of the local rugby club, they can have an influence for good, can't they?
Yeah, I feel like everywhere has influence. When you see, when you look at things like if you were to go into a high school, who has the most influence? I would say the first 15 rugby team in terms of their relationship with teachers and stuff like that. Or you'd go to a different. I feel like in every town or in every place, the influence of our rangatahi is different, and where the young people of that place is affected. So I feel like in terms of it's what are we doing, but how are we now equipping our young people to help other young people, just like Christian and that. So how they're doing what they're doing. because that they'll listen to us more than some adults that they don't fully understand on TV. That makes sense.
Awesome. Any closing thoughts there, Christian? Just in regards to what we talked about, the importance of rangatahi youth having their say or being part of the fabric of society of civic participation.
Yeah, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That we get to be the future of Aotearoa. And so I think my final closing remarks would be, we know that for local elections, voter turnout isn't great. And I would say to young people, I would encourage you to vote. Local elections are important. We've got our state elections next year. We all know those are important, but local elections are important. Safe drinking water, the roads we drive on, the green spaces like Fraser Park and places, community places for rangatahi, for youth, spaces they're building in Nainai, spaces they're built at like the Walter Nash and all across the hut from Wainui to Eastbourne to Stokes Valley. It's important that we vote for people who will champion rangatahi issues. I know that the council can be a bit old, and it seems, and sometimes we do hear a lot about the council trying for young people, but it would be good to have a voice for young people there, and you can have that by voting. So that's what I'd say. It's not just for the next 3 years or the next 4 years. It's for the next 5, the next 10, the next 15. Yeah.
Kia ora. And you fellas were young, I think, when I started in this local government, when I first stood for the community board back in 2016. I think I was 24 years old, thinking back, and these are some memories there. That's in 2013. Campbell Barry's the mayor now. But, that's the youth advocacy, and there's some great examples since I've been on the community board of ex-Tajai Powhari, who advocated for, led the petition of the Wainimata High School students to the community board. Then we recommended it up to the council, that half the street names in Lower Hutt Te Awa Kairangi be named Māori street names, and to take into account, mana whenua. And then recently, just last month in June, we had Isla Barclay and Shay from Arakura School. Of course, our whanaunga there is part of the Arakura School, primary school, and they were advocating for safer streets in the Arakura area in terms of what we call safety cushions. So they were saying, speed bumps do make a difference, and it'll slow down the boy races and so forth. So rangatahi do make a difference and have an impact, and I've seen it all the way through, the past 6 years on the community board. But, seeing you two as an inspiration for rangatahi up there, whether it's politics or whether it's I call it an art form. Some people call it
creative arts,
but arts. You guys are leading the way in that respect, and so I just want to mihi to you both. Thank you both for coming on, and all the best with your studies up there in Auckland, and of course safe travels for when you head overseas, Julie. Ngā mihi kia koutou. Thank you for joining us on our first episode of Tupou Talks, and I think we certainly got a great insight from Silka as well. Climate change, it's affecting not us now, and it's going to affect our mokopuna into the future.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, kia ora koutou. Korua.
Ngā mihi.
Thank you. Ngā mihi.